everyone, I'm Keisha,
And I'm Tiana Chapin, and this is Raw Talk Media.
where there are no boundaries,
No filters,
just real talk. All right, guys, so today we're talking about schools in crisis. Are our kids being left behind? And as a school teacher, I think this is a great topic for us to go over. And then Tiana is a homeschooling mom. So we're going to talk about a few of our experiences with the school system. And we're going to also talk about what that means now that we have Trump in presidency right now. So I think a few things we want to talk about are what's going on currently. And so currently, I know that there's been huge budget cuts within the education system. And then not only that, but then within our own system, we have people being put into positions that are making far more than what the budget even allows. So I'm just interested to see how it's going to develop now that Trump is in office.
I would definitely say that. I feel like we already had education crisis within the United States in general. Because if you notice that a lot of the jobs, prime example, Imalamas, how he was talking about how he did have to hire a lot of people from overseas because they were more qualified with the skills, which is goes back to our position within our school system. We're in the same curriculum. It hasn't evolved.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the reasons why, as a homeschool mom, I kind of pulled my daughter out of the school system because I feel like it wasn't meeting her needs, and it wasn't she wasn't my daughter is autistic, and so definitely it does affect her because she did have a 504 plan, and she had
IEP.
An IEP as well. But even with those, she wasn't really being engaged within school system, and it was not benefiting her. So, and it's something that I was like, okay, well, where can I do? How can I make school fun for her, but also to making sure that she's getting the basics that she needs because she's not getting it in the school system.
Yeah. And I admire that you were able to take that step and decide to homeschool. I think that takes a lot. And I think a lot of parents aren't aware of, the steps they need to take if they want to go the same route. Because you say you do a lot of it, but then there are classes that she goes to with other students.
Yeah. So I actually do a homeschool program through actual Monroe School District. So we live in Seattle, Washington, and they actually have an actual school program where you can still homeschool your kid, but they're doing basic things within the school system. So prime example, my daughter, she takes robotics and coding, she takes home ec, and she also takes hands-on science, and she did piano, and she did Lego engineering, but she's in third grade. So I mean, these are things that a lot of other countries are doing with their children, but in our own school system, we're not doing those. So our kids are not getting those advantages.
Right. They don't have the access to it. They don't have the ability to immerse themselves in anything outside of what is in front of them. And it's just been, like you said, unevolved education system.
But that is for the public education system.
Right, yeah.
And that's the thing that we're talking about here, because are you noticing that in order for your kid to get the actual education that they need in a at the level that they can get jobs and be a little bit more prepared, they have to go to a private school.
Right.
So now the actual kids who are basically their parents don't have those
the means,
the actual money to even invest in them. Not saying that it's just something that's not in their budget.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all struggling these days.
Yeah.
But I feel, how does ours, with all these budget cuts and with all these changes, do you think that the politics that are happening are really interfering with our children's education?
Absolutely. I think politics have a lot to do with education and how it's run, especially in the United States. I think that first off, we have a lot of white cis men making decisions for us and so out of touch with what these kids need. And I understand that Trump is trying to cut off different programs right now currently, at least definitely any classes or education that has to do with gender, sex, and which
But okay, I'm not a Trump supporter. However,
uh-oh.
I do believe that that is something that does not belong in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And not, yeah, you guys know I'm a Christian, but not only with that, I just feel like those are conversations that we need to have with our parent, like
At
the
home.
parents need to have with their child. And even to say, because I feel like when we put it in the school system, like, are we preying on these children and
Yeah.
like basically taking advantage that we have that power and like pitting thoughts in their head? Because
Yeah.
that's what I think it is.
Yeah. Honestly, it it's like, okay, I can see why he's chosen that, but what else is at stake? Are the IEPs that kids are getting, this pre assessments, going to be cut off? Because I think that those are very important to determine how they're going to have the trajectory of their education. I think that there's a lot of things that might get cut. And I think when we're thinking about the public school, like, there's already a huge budget deficit that we're going in the 2025 school year. I believe that it is a $1.25 billion district short-term loan that we're getting to cover the deficit
Hold
that
on.
we have.
Oh, wait. What does that mean? Like when you say that, like break that down to me, because I'm
So
trying to like figure that in my head.
So we already went over the budget. The funding budget is 1.25 billion to cover for the 2024-2025 school year.
Okay.
So we are paying that in a loan. We already don't got that.
Oh.
We already don't got that. So how much are they going to cut? Because what I've already understood as a Seattle public school teacher is getting the email saying that there was going to be cutting of schools. I thought that my school was going to be on there, and it was. It was.
Oh, your school's getting cut?
No, so here it goes.
Oh
So,
my God. What are the schools?
okay, so at first they started off with the first option was that they were going to close 21 elementary schools, and then they had 17 schools that were supposed to close on the second plan.
What?
The plan eventually scaled back to closing only 4 elementary schools. That's going to be North Beach, Sacagawea, San Solo, and Stevens Elementary, which my daughter went to. So
when they close those schools, where are they placing these kids?
I wonder where they're going to start flooding them into the schools that are closest into that school district. So then that means if there's any kids with IEPs, that means the SPED departments are going to be overrun, like under ratio, over ratio, under staffed. Yeah. So that means that we're going to have to need more employees. So then that means the budget for hiring new people is going to start to happen. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but it doesn't sound like, I knew that 17 schools wasn't going to work. I think a lot of parents complain, obviously, especially if your kid was on one of the lists of the schools that were closing. I think a lot of people are wondering where their jobs will be. But I think if the school closes, what I do know is the teachers might be okay because they'll be able to go into the other schools. That means the increase on SPED enrollment will go up. So, yeah, it's really scary.
Do you also think, because I noticed that, like, yeah, the increasing of those kids, but are they going to get the aid? Because you know how with a certain amount of kids, certain amount of kids in a classroom, you have to have an aid. And that's one of the things I noticed about when my daughter was in school, is one of the reasons why I picked her out too, because I noticed that they were taking, grouping the kids. Yeah. So they were like, okay, this group, but they will always have that one kid who's doing really well. Yeah. And then that kid is supposed to be teaching the other 3. Oh no. And what I was thinking is like, okay, so how does that work? So basically the kids who are like actually know something, they're just never going to evolve. They're going to be stuck in that, like, basically that place because they're teaching. Yeah. And how does that work? Like, I don't know. It kind of reason why I kind of decided that maybe I never thought about being a teacher, and I never thought about like, oh, this is what I wanted to do. But I see I know my kid better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's the reason why I did decided to homeschool her. And I seen so many benefits with doing that, because I noticed that my daughter, she was actually wearing glasses, and then she stopped wearing glasses because they were like, oh, she grew out of them, she doesn't need them. And she was squinting a lot when we were doing homework, and I was like, what's going on? But she wasn't. And she's like, I don't know, my eyes hurt. So then because I was with her, I noticed that, like, hey, let's get her eyes checked. Yeah. So we got her eyes checked, and she needed reading glasses because she can read. But then she wasn't, like, as we're, like, doing math with her, and I noticed that she wasn't doing so well in math. And I was like, well, what's happening? We did brain mapping with her recently, and they were basically saying that, one side of her brain was like basically heavy active, but she wasn't having the processor to process the information. It was like delayed. So, I mean, but I was learning all this because I was teaching her, but I would have never caught this if I wasn't, like, homeschooling her. Right. And I mean, is homeschool great? It's good for certain people, but I don't think it's for everybody.
What does your schedule have to look like if you are planning on homeschooling? Like, if they're taking some classes together, like, what would your schedule need to look like?
So I would say homeschool looks different for everybody. And I think a lot of people, when you think of homeschooling, you think like, oh, my daughter needs to go to school from 9 o'clock and do it all the way to 3. No, when you're doing hands-on, your kid only needs to be doing homeschool for like 2 hours or even less. You pick a curriculum and just go from there. So what we do, we actually do a curriculum called Book Shark. And it's a literature-based, like, program, but we also, like, intermix that with her curricular activities where she has the robotics, coding, home ec, and then she does science. So I basically, and then you math. So we have a tutor that she goes to for math, but I also teach her math as well. And then, so we wake up in the morning, we work on certain things. We have a whole schedule that we follow, and it literally takes probably 2 hours or less. And then she plays.
Nice.
She goes and play. And then, honestly, and I think a lot of people don't want to homeschool because they're like, well, your kid's not going to be interactive like that. But that's not true. Like, my daughter, actually, she does, I feel like she's more active now than she was when she was in school, because she does singing lessons, she does karate, we do, in my gym that I go to, it has a because homeschool has become really big lately, and they have like a kid fit. So she goes, it's like a gym for kids. It's like for 2 hours, and they actually have like a whole curriculum. I mean, these kids are doing burpees, doing ninja warriors, all kind of stuff.
Nice.
And she does that. She does indoor soccer. She does swim lessons. She does piano.
And it's all through the school?
No, these are just like other curricular activities I found around like my neighborhood and stuff. But I mean, it's just like you got to be as involved as you want. And I just think, like, as a mother and like not even a mother, but as a parent, if you're going to homeschool your kid, just go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I had the opportunity to redo it and do that for Sanaya, because I feel like there were so many times that we were applying to private schools and she never got in. And then we finally got to a point where, Running Start was free option that she can get higher education. But yeah, I probably would have done it differently if I could redo her elementary school days.
But now that you work in school, like, what are some of the things that you're noticing? Like, what are that affecting you that you think that our kids are being left behind?
Well, I think that the class sizes are way too big. I think that our kindergarten classes are not supposed to be over, I believe, 18 kids. We're on over that. We're making ways to do that because we are having like IA stand in. I'm getting pulled on certain days.
What is
to
go IA?
An assistant.
Okay.
So instructional assistant. And so those aren't certified teachers though. Like, so I think what they're doing is scrambling, and it's working for now, but I don't think in the long run it's paying off, because one, they need someone consistent. So if you're pulling me on a Wednesday, the only day that I can do it, and then you're pulling another IA on the regular days of the week, or the other days of the week, not the regular, and it just, they're constantly seeing a different person. A lot of these kids have IEPs. Some are in gen ed, and then they go to another classroom, and some are in their classes all throughout the day. But the ones that are in gen ed, I think they struggle in between. They need consistency. I think that the kindergartners are struggling First off, these kids, I ain't never seen kids like this. They can't sit, they can't focus.
But do you think that's a big problem because of COVID? Like, I feel like a lot of kids are delayed because of COVID.
Yep,
and now that's what we're dealing with, these kids.
Yep, these younger ones, like, man. I did summer school with kindergarten going to first. Man, we were sounding out is. I'm like, what is it? I'm just like, no, honey, no, we gotta try. And I'm not. It made me learn. I need to hold off because I'm not cut out right now to be teaching kids. So I just think that the COVID has set back a lot of students. I think that the budget's cutting a lot of programs that make school exciting is an issue because they're going in and they have to sit for such long lengths of time with no entertainment, depending on how your teacher is and how they design the curriculum, if they make it fun and engaging or if they're burnt out. I think there are a lot of teachers that are burnt out. I think a lot of teachers are underpaid. I think there's a lot that goes into why the public education system is failing our kids.
Now, do you think like what's happening right now with the politics with, immigration, have you seen any kind of effects from that with the deportation?
Not quite now, but I think that my school is very diverse. We have a lot of Spanish kids. I think on my roster we have at least 3 or 4, and they all have a language
translator.
They're a translator, but they also work with the kids throughout the day. So
like kind of like speech therapy.
Yeah. And so I think that maybe I don't know what deportation will do. I don't know.
No, because I feel like that because I like heard from a lot of I don't know. I've been watching TikToks and I've seen like a lot of schools who like they're going in and raiding the schools and taking the children out.
Wow.
Or some of the teachers are saying that kids are not. They used to have like 12 students and like their kids are not showing up.
Oh, my Spanish kid hasn't showed up all day. I mean, he showed up maybe 7 times. 7 times. So maybe,
but they're not showing up because they're afraid of getting deported, I feel like. So you haven't seen that at your school?
No.
I mean, we are in Washington, so I feel like right now it's really hitting in Chicago. So
yeah. No, I think that overall, the school system has always been a little. How can I say this politely? It never really did good for our marginalized students in general. First off, and then the other side is that they're not funded well. So even if they could provide all the extracurricular courses and all the STEM classes, I just think that they don't have the budget for it anyway.
Do you feel that it's in only certain areas?
Oh, for sure.
Because I know, my cousin, her kids in the Woodland, what is that? Wooden Bothell and Woodinville.
I was going to say that,
whatever. Because they're like one of the number 1 schools in Washington.
Yep.
I mean, like school districts. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, do you see that kind of do you feel like with the people in the better neighborhoods are as their schools are not overrun or underfunded as much as schools in poor?
I think they're doing really good. As a matter of fact, my cousin works in a school in Shoreline. I think Shoreline is really good too.
It's a really good school district, yeah.
And she doesn't see a lot of the issues that I see, although their SPED department is just as jacked up. But I think they do a lot better as far as all the funding. I think Kimball, I went to Kimball. It's an elementary school here in Seattle, and they're one of the newly developed schools, and they look real good. They have a really nice space. Shoot, they have air conditioning. We don't have air conditioning, okay? We barely have heat.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say what my school is, but at my elementary school, we barely have heat.
Doesn't it give you Abbey Elementary that show?
Yes. Oh my God, yes, please. If you are looking to cast any actors, actresses in any elementary inspired shows, I am your girl. Okay? Because yes, we be in there with our scarves and our coat. So we put a little ice pack on the thermometer. We put an ice pack on the thermometer, and we think it's tricking it to make the heat go up, but we don't know. But it's bad. It's bad. I do my little school lunch reviews. I don't know if you guys have been able to catch it on Keisha Seattle. There's my
Not the
Instagram.
school lunches.
Oh yeah.
What's wrong with school lunches? So do you? Oh, you know what? I did see on news how they want to cut.
Yep, even more
school lunches.
So I believe
and
I have to look it up.
Oh my god, I was watching that on the news, and honestly, I was really shocked because I feel like a lot of kids go to school for lunches because they're not getting food. That's like their safe haven place where they actually can get food. And that was like the whole point of like some of those kids being happy to go there. So now I'm like, what is happening with America? Come on, let's raise it up.
Okay. So the budget, oh gosh, I want to see down to someone told me it the other day, but it was like they have 11 cents per child is what they I swear, I'm trying to look it up right now.
It can't be 11 cents because right now you can't even buy anything with $1.
Well, that's what they say they're working on. If they budget it out to per child, that's how much it would be on what they're working with for school lunches. I need to fact check.
Is it like, are you meaning that like it's going to cost them 11 cents per child, or
it's as if they were spending 11 cents per child?
I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, so I could be wrong, but I was having a conversation. I was like, "What? No wonder, because it tastes like it."
It's like horrible.
So yeah, I do my school lunch reviews, and honestly, the lunches aren't horrible. I just wouldn't eat it if I was a kid. I mean, I'd eat some stuff, but I see a lot of kids that are like, I'm not eating that. And I just feel so bad because I feel like lunches when I was growing up, like I was like, this is good.
No, I feel like it was like a safe haven for a lot of people when they like growing up, because you know, even in the summertime when they used to have the parks and they used to have the free lunches and the kids can go there because they didn't have food at home. But I just feel like, what are some of the things that we can do to make the United States education system better? Like, what do you think? Like I mean, as an educator, like you're in the school system, like what do you think that is a way that we can make it better? Do you think that like homeschool, just everyone just should homeschool their kids?
No, I think that the people that are making, so it needs to start with politics first, right? They need to understand how important these, educational programs are. They need to understand how important public schooling is. If we were able to educate each kid at the top, expectation and with the top resources, then we will have politicians, we will have lawyers and lawmakers, and we'll have all these things covered because we're providing better education and care for our children. But I think once we start with the politics and understanding how important it is, we also need to make sure we're clocking the public school system and the people that are in charge there. Because alone, let's talk about our superintendent here.
Yes.
Our superintendent right now is making a salary. Dr. Brent Jones is making $39,000 a year. That's a 6.3 increase from his previous salary. And he ain't doing nothing that I can see that is worth that much money. So we're closing schools, and then you're telling people that you're closing schools and then taking it back and then being like, oh, no, wait, everything's fine. We're only going to do 4. Like, that is not how I would want somebody to run a ship.
Not at all. Especially, like, can you, like, justify why are we closing so many schools?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the money, but you're able to give yourself a 6.3% increase from the year before with you're doing the same work. Yeah. And how does that, like, benefit our people?
Right.
Because I noticed one of the things that I did when I used to be basically the treasurer for the PTO, I noticed that, like, the teachers were using so much of their money to just get like stuff for their classrooms, like a lot of money. Like, I mean, like, not like, I'm not saying like $200, $300. I'm talking about thousands of dollars to buy these things for their school. So like, not only are we underpaying them, but we're expecting them to use their hard-earned money that they're making from us on their students.
Yeah. We provide in our classroom. So we started doing cooking projects. We provide the food for that. Cannot put it on our list for necessary items because it isn't a daily thing that makes the classroom function. So I get it. Gloves. We need gloves in our room. We have young children that sometimes have accidents. And so we have to provide our own gloves. So, yes, I do think that we're not taking care of the teachers. The teachers are not being provided what they need. And honestly, teaching, you have to care. You have to care and want to be a teacher, be a natural nurturer, a natural educator to want to do this job because it's not paying enough for us to be like, oh yeah, everybody wants to be a teacher. You know, you people used to say like, you know, when they were growing up, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, oh, a teacher. And now, like, I don't hear none of. I have heard students be like, I do not want to be a teacher.
Well,
It's the
I
opposite
mean,
now.
it's definitely a lot to like grasp, and I feel like we have definitely need to put more focus on making our school system better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best thing that we can do is like hold our people accountable, like really understand that when we not just voting for when we're voting for the presidential election, but voting, look at those ballots because sometimes they be like cutting those ballots and they be like inserting like, oh, should we cut this funding? Like really think about that because it does affect everybody. Yeah, like I homeschool my daughter, so I'm not really like that concerned about it anymore. But however, I do still use some of the resources from the public school system in order for my daughter to still, you know, have these other extra classes. And I think that it can benefit everybody. So in general, I feel like we need to start saying something. We need to start stepping up.
Yeah.
So that's it. I want to say thank you so much for coming to our next episode. We are trying to get them out on Mondays, but continue to like follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and you can always find our podcasts on YouTube podcasts.
So thank you. Again, I'm Keisha.
And I'm Tiana Chapin, and this is Raw Talk Media.
Where there are no boundaries,
No filters,
just real talk.